Welcome back, learners. Let's continue with our lesson. So let's look at the first part of our lesson, and that is calculation techniques with whole numbers. The first thing we're going to look at is calculations using the column method. So when using the column method, we need to know the place value of each digit in the given number. So for example, if we have the number 2,746, then you should know which number is the thousand, the hundreds, the tens, and the ones. Let's look at the number that is given there, 2,746. So the 2 there represents the thousands. And to show that it represents the thousands, we're just going to put a TH over it. The 7 there represents the hundreds, and we show that using an H. The tens is the 4. So we have 4 tens there, and we use that representing a T. And lastly, the 6 there is under the ones. We use that representing, we show that representing it with a letter O. So when we add, subtract, multiply using columns, we work with each column at a time. So let's look at a few examples on how to do this. Addition using the column method. We are going to start by adding 347 with 251. So using the column method, again we said what's important is for us to focus on each place value. So we've got the ones, the tens, and the hundreds. We are going to start with the ones. So I am going to say 7 plus 8. So 7 ones plus 1, that is going to give us 8 ones. Then we have 4 tens with 5 tens. That gives us 9 tens, which is 90. And then we have 3 hundreds plus 2 hundreds, and that gives us 5 hundreds. Our answer there is 598. Let's move on to the next one. The next one there is 124,345. We are adding 815,138. So again, we are going to start with the ones. I have 5 ones and 8 ones. So 5 ones and 8 ones gives me 13. So because it is only the 3 that belongs to the ones, that 10 cannot be in the ones column. It has to go on to the tens column. So I'm just going to write it here above to represent, to show that it falls under the tens. Then we are going to say 4 tens plus 3 tens. That gives us 7 tens. But remember, we have that 1 that comes from our previous calculation. So 4 tens plus 3 tens plus the 1 10 gives us 8 tens. Then we have 300 plus 100. That will give us 400. Next, we have 4,000 plus 5,000. That will give us 9,000. Then we have 20,000 plus 10,000. That gives us 30,000. And then lastly, we have 100,000 and 800,000, which gives us 900,000. Our final answer there is 939,483. I hope you managed to get that. Let's move on to subtraction using the column method. So subtraction works similar to how we did with addition, except we are subtracting, but we also will start with the ones. So we are just going to subtract using each column. So 7 minus 1. We have there, our answer is 6. 7 minus 1 is 6 ones. Then we have 5 tens minus 4 tens. That's 50 minus 40. That leaves us with just 1 10. Then we have 300 minus 200. That gives us just 100. Our answer there is 116. Let's move on to the next question. So now we have here 53,395 minus 12,138. So again, we do start with the ones. So now we have the 5 ones minus 8 ones. Remember, we cannot take 8 ones from 5 ones. So now what needs to happen is that we are going to go to the tens column and we are going to borrow 10 from there. So from 9 tens, when I have 9 tens and I take 1, I am left with 8 tens. And now this means that that 10 goes to the ones and I have 15 ones. So now 15 ones minus 8 ones. That leaves us with 7 ones. Then we have 8 tens minus 3 tens, and that gives us 5 tens. The next one there is we have 3 hundreds minus 100, and that gives us 2 hundreds. We move on to the thousands, where I have 3,000 minus 2,000, and that gives us 1,000. Then I have 50,000 minus 10,000. So 50,000 minus 10,000 is 40,000. That means that my final answer there is 41,257. Let's move on to multiplication. So multiplication, we also use the column method in the same way, but now we are multiplying. We are going to multiply each place value with the number that we've been given to multiply. Remember to write the answer in the place value where it's supposed to be. So let's start with this one, 347 multiplied by 4. So we are going to start by saying 7 ones multiplied by 4. That gives us 28. But now think about 28. Only the 8 goes into the ones, and that 2 belongs to the tens. So I am going to just write it there because that is a 20. So it belongs to the tens. Then we're going to move on and say 4 multiplied by 40. So 4 multiplied by 40 is 160. But remember, we have that 20 from our previous calculation. So that means that we are going to say it is 160, then we are going to add that 20. That gives us 180. But it is only the 80 that belongs in the tens column. So I am going to write the 8 there in the tens column, but because the 100 belongs in the hundreds column, I'm just going to write it there on top of the 100. Then we have 4 multiplied by 300. 4 multiplied by 300 is 1,200. But remember, we have the 100 from the previous calculation. So together, those ones give us 1,300. So the 3 will go into the hundreds column and the 1 will go into the thousands column. Let's look at a second example for multiplication. So now we are going to multiply 245 multiplied by 12. So now we are going to say 5 ones multiplied by 12. Now if you remember, 5 times 12 is 60. So 60 means 6 tens. That means with the ones we have nothing. And we have 6 tens, so I'm going to write that 6 tens in the tens column. Then we have 40 multiplied by 12. Now, if you want to make it easier for yourself, we know that 4 times 12 is 48. But because this is not 4 times 12, it's 40 times 12. We are going to place that 0 there. So 40 times 12 is 480. But remember, that's not all. We have that 6 tens that we placed there on top. So we need to go and add it to the 480. So 480 plus the 6 tens, that gives us 540. So because we are in the tens column, we are going to write the 4 for the 4 tens, and the 5 will go in the hundreds column to represent the 500. Now we are going to have 12 multiplied by 200. Again, 12 times 2 is 24. But because this is not a 2, it's a 200, so we are going to put 2 zeros to represent the 100. That means that 12 multiplied by 200 is actually 2,400. Remember that 500 that we had from the previous calculation, we are going to add those together. That gives us 2,900. So the 9 will go into the hundreds column for 900, and the 2 will go into the thousands column. So our answer for 245 multiplied by 12 is 2,940. Let's go to an ad break, and then we'll see you just now.